After the Russian invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the message from the West was clear. Ukraine received moral and political support, financial aid, and we would take in refugees here in Europe. But, Chairperson, there would be no military involvement. We would not become a party to this war. That was a deliberate choice. NATO is not a party to the conflict. That was also logical. Ukraine is not a NATO member. Strictly speaking, under international law, we had nothing to do with this. Germany was initially outright opposed to supplying weapons. In this initial phase, the Netherlands supplied helmets and bulletproof vests, explicitly defensive equipment. In January 2023, Germany and the United States announced that they would supply Leopard 2 and M1 Abrams tanks, respectively, to Ukraine. In 2024, President Zelensky also presented the first F-16s that Ukraine had received from NATO countries, with the first batch coming from the Netherlands. The Netherlands is also the first country within the so-called F-16 coalition to have fully delivered on its entire commitment. All 24 promised aircraft have now been delivered. Definitely not a modest contribution. On May 22, 2024, Russia's strategic nuclear early warning radar in Armavir was attacked by drones, a serious provocation. Then came the long-range missiles. Initially, Ukraine was only allowed to use these within its own territory, but in November 2024, the first Attack-MS and Storm Shadows were deployed against targets deeper inside Russian territory. On July 1, 2025, Russia's nuclear triad was attacked with drones. The bombers, which according to the New START treaty, now no longer in effect, must be visibly positioned for satellites. Once again, a dangerous provocation. At the end of December 2025, 91 long-range drones were sent to Putin's Valdai residence. According to the Russians, all of these were intercepted. An assassination attempt? Ukraine denies it. And just this morning, a drone attack on St. Petersburg from one of the Baltic states, or at least through their airspace. All these actions have been carried out with intensive NATO involvement, at least when it comes to targeting, intelligence, and satellite guidance. They are NATO actions. Now, here in the Netherlands, we are shamelessly, openly, and blatantly engaged in drone production for Ukraine. The British government announced that the military is ready to board and seize ships from the so-called Russian Shadow Fleet. France is doing the same. Shadow Fleet means nothing more than not being insured by Lloyd's of London. That gives no one the right to simply board such a ship. That is piracy. Chairman, in recent years we have seen a slow accumulation. We initially started with restraint, and now we have ended up supplying patrol vehicles, carrying out attacks on various strategic Russian targets, organizing drones and boarding ships. And that brings us to the core question, the question that I believe we must ask in this House. Haven't we given Russia a casus belli? Can we still seriously maintain that NATO is not a party to the conflict? That isn't credible, is it, Chairman? Aren't we in fact already at war with Russia? Is that what we want? The West seems to assume that Russia will just continue to accept this course of events. And fortunately they have so far, but how much longer will this go well? This is completely irresponsible, isn't it? Why aren't we forcefully insisting on talks with the Russians? Or should we start them ourselves? It's not our war. Thank you.
An interruption from Ms. van der Werf.
Yes, Chairman. What is actually Mr. Dekker's goal?
Mr. Dekker.
You mean my goal in life, or?
Well, Chairman, when I heard this story, this argument, it wasn't at all clear to me which side of this conflict Mr. Dekker is on. And we can disagree about that. But do you want peace then? Do you want to help Russia then? So what is it that you do want?
Mr. Dekker?
Yes, Chairman, that's a good question. I would very much like for peace to come as soon as possible by having open talks with Russia. There is a lot of talk about Russia, but from Europe there is no dialogue with Russia at all. And I believe that needs to happen as soon as possible. And in my argument I outlined how we have shifted from a cautious position to an increasingly far-reaching one. A position we would never have dared to take during the Cold War, because we are, after all, talking about the world's largest nuclear power, which we now take for granted. We keep going further and we are taking enormous risks. And I would like to say, stop taking these risks. Take steps back as soon as possible and open that dialogue with Russia.
Finally, Ms. van der Weg.
Chair, is Mr. Dekker saying that if I have to choose in this conflict between the side of Ukraine and the side of Russia, then I choose the latter? Mr.
Dekker?
Chair, in this conflict I choose the side of the people and the side of peace.